What's going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and these are the baits that I will be using for the month of September. All right, so in this video, what I want to do is I want to kind of divide the nation in half. Not down the Mason-Dixon line, but just divide it in half. You got the northern states that are already in their fall, through their fall transition, or just solid in their fall transition. And then down here in the south, we're just about into it. So we're going to talk about two different style baits. But the first thing that you're going to notice this time of the year, whether you're up north or in the south, is you see a lot more surface action. You see a lot more bass schooling. And when I say schooling, I mean they're coming up on bait, they're busting bait on the surface and things like that. So I'm always going to have a bait somewhere tied on for schooling fish. Those baits are pretty simple. I've got two of them. First one is going to be a walking style bait. Okay, this is a dual pitch from 13. Also a a Super Spook Junior is what I use the most. And what I'll do with the Super Spook Junior, I make sure that it's a clear bait. I want the clear Super Spook Junior, and I'm going to take the hook off the front, and I'm going to put a red hook on right there. I can't find them right now. I've got to go buy some more because somehow they got lost over the last year. But a walking bait. The rod you're going to throw a walking bait on is, I like to throw mine on a medium fast action rod, monofilament line or braided line, because it floats. And you're just going to have it handy for when those fish blow up around you and you can get to them and catch one or two of them out of the school. Now, the problem I run into with schooling fish is the bait is usually really small. And so I figured something out about 2, maybe 3 years ago that works really good on schooling fish, especially right after they go down and they're not busting anymore and you're just trying to cover that surface area, trying to get one to come up and try to catch one last fish. And that is a dual Realis Spybait. Okay, this one's in a shad pattern. I also have one in this one's in a bluegill pattern. I also have one in a shad pattern. Either or work. It's just a small little tiny bait, and you don't fish it like all the videos tell you to fish a spybait. You throw it out on a spinning rod and you start reeling immediately and keep it just under the surface. And this will get you bit when nothing else will, when their fish are schooling and when they're really hard to catch. But the dual Realis Spybait. Now, by the way, all of these baits, all the links to be able to find these baits, because a couple of them aren't available in Tackle Warehouse, but all those links are going to be down in the description. And that way you can go take a look at them and buy them if you want to. And the Tackle Warehouse links are all my affiliate links, just to make sure you guys know. All right, so those are my schooling baits. Now the next ones are something I'm going to be throwing most of the morning throughout, basically until that morning bite dies, or that shallow bite dives, and that is a buzzbait. Okay. And I'm about to come out with a buzzbait video to talk about how to fish these and get into really good detail. But this is what I'm going to throw. Literally, if you look at these buzzbaits, I've taken the skirts off of both of them. I don't fish skirts on my buzzbaits. I like a fat Albert grub this time of the year, or some type of a smaller kicktail or double kicktail. And like I said, I'll get into that in the video. But I love to be able to throw these all day long if they'll let me. If the fish are up shallow, if it's cloudy, low light conditions, whatever, it's going to be great. Throw this thing all the way up on the bank, reel it off the bank, and you're going to catch a ton of really big fish on a buzzbait. Now, the rod I'm going to throw this on is going to be a medium heavy. It's going to be my jig rod, 7'3", medium heavy, fast action rod. Fluorocarbon line, mainly because it is a topwater bait, but I don't ever lay my line down on the water. I keep it up and keep the line going straight at the bait, so my rod tip is way high, and you don't have a problem with the fluorocarbon line dragging it down if you do that. So a buzzbait, cover a lot of water, find the fish, catch a lot of really big fish on this thing. All right, so the fall transition comes in, especially up north. You guys are already there. What happens is your grass starts to die off if you have grass in the lake. My lakes around here have no grass, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But typically grass lakes, your grass begins to die off. So a couple of things are going to happen. The bass are either going to migrate to the grass that's still alive and still growing. Sometimes that can be difficult to find. We're going to talk about it in a second. And then, or they move to hard cover. They move away from the grass. They move to wood, docks, rocks, anything. They get away from that dying grass. And they do it pretty quickly. As soon as that grass starts to die off, you may not notice it, but the bass will. The baits that I'm gonna throw around, first of all, around the green grass. Now the bait that I'm gonna use when I'm looking for that live grass is gonna be a deeper diving crankbait. I love this rock crawler. This is the one that goes 9 to 14 feet deep. And it really doesn't matter the color, because all I wanna do is catch the grass and bring it up and look at it. And I'm looking for that green, beautiful live grass. And if you find that, you're gonna find some bass in that grass, especially mid-September to October here in the South, and early September to October up north. Find that green grass and find the big bass. Now I found them. How am I gonna catch them? My favorite way to catch them is with a flipping jig, okay? And I'm gonna throw a little bit of orange on that flipping jig this time of the year, because for some reason, the crawfish that are in the grass get a little bit of orange tint to them this time of the year, and in the spring, but this time of the year they get a little orange tint. And so I'm gonna throw a little orange in there, and if I don't have a jig that's orange, I'm gonna use a green pumpkin jig, and I'm gonna dip my trailer with, this is a rage bug, I'm gonna dip my trailer in some methylate JJ's Magic to make these claws orange. So I'm just gonna dip a little bit of it in there. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around, once I find that grass, I'm literally just gonna flip into it, shake it a few times, hop it up, shake it, and then bring it back in. The rod I'm gonna be using is a 7'3" medium heavy, same one I'm using on the Buzzbait. You can just cut your Buzzbait on and tie your jig on and go to town. But you will catch giants. I have caught some of my biggest fish doing this in September, and I've won, I don't know how many tournaments doing the same thing, finding the green grass and dragging something through it. The jig is awesome. All right, so later on in September, midway September through October here in the South, and now through early October up north, I'm gonna be throwing a frog. I'm telling you, the frog bite gets on like crazy this time of the year. Probably my favorite time of the year throwing a frog. And what I've got here is I've got a Trash Panda from 13, and I got a Spro Bronze Eye Frog. These are the two I fish the most. I also like Booyah Pad Crashers. They always have a really good hookup ratio. They just don't last very long because their plastic is a little soft. There's a give and take to all frog designs, but these are the two I end up throwing the most. All right, so the rod I'm gonna throw this on is gonna be a heavy power rod. 7'3", 7'6" for most of you guys. For me, I like 7 foot and shorter. 6'5", or a 8:1 or 8:3 gear ratio reel, 65-pound test braided line, and it is full combat stuff. Man, up north, when that grass starts to mat up, what happens is you get I know in Minnesota, you get the wild rice. And the wild rice will break off and the wind will blow it up into the shallows and make it mat up. And I'm telling you, you throw a frog over top of that and just about every mat's gonna have a nice fish under, 2, 3, 4 pounder. Another thing I like to do when that happens is I like to flip. And I'll flip and punch with a 3/8 ounce tungsten weight Texas rig and something like a rage bug or a rage craw. Again, I'm gonna have green pumpkin with a little bit of orange on the tips. I'll dip that in JJ's Magic, and I don't have JJ's Magic in the house for a reason. It smells like garlic, and my wife kills me whenever I bring it in the house. But anyway, so this is what I'm gonna be throwing for that. Now let's move away from the grass. Let's get into ponds. Let's get into the periods of time when the bass move to that hard cover or move to rocks and wood. All right, with ponds, I'm gonna be pretty simple. The few baits that I'm gonna throw, number one, is gonna be a swim jig in a bluegill pattern, basically. Green pumpkin with a little bit of chartreuse. Here's another one right here from Greenfish. That's their bluegill color that I throw a lot. And with ponds and small bodies of water, typically they don't have shad. And on larger bodies of water, I'm going around looking for shad. I'm looking for all the bait, the major types of bait fish. Well, these small ponds don't have it. Typically, their biggest bait fish and their best bait fish is a bluegill. So I'm gonna find some stuff that mimics a bluegill. Number one is gonna be something like this. This is a baby bluegill. Okay, you can find these over at Catchco. Like I said, I'll leave a link down in the description, but a baby bluegill is something I'm gonna throw a lot. And then a fluke, but I'm not gonna throw a pearl white fluke on small ponds. I'm gonna throw a green pumpkin red or a watermelon or some type of a green color. To mimic those bluegill, and you'll find that you'll get a whole lot more bites throwing this color on small ponds than you would, say, a white ice or a pearl. And so definitely going to throw that kind of stuff on a pond. Frog on a pond, that kind of stuff. Buzzbait I would throw. But now on bigger lakes, when you're covering a lot of water, when they move up on that wood and they move up on the rocks and underneath docks and things like that, there's a few baits that I'm gonna throw at that period of time, and mainly squarebill crankbaits. And I've got several I'm gonna show you real quick. The Fat Papa. I love this one, and each of these act a little bit different, and I'm gonna cycle through these to find which action and what the fish want the most. But the Fat Papa from Spro is a really good crankbait because it's got a good wide wiggle. It's pretty durable, so you can beat it up against things, which is typically what you're gonna wanna do anyway, and it stays pretty snag free. Really, really good bait with that wide wiggle this time of the year. Okay, so to stay with that wide wiggle, the Scamp from 13. This one is good because it has really fast buoyancy or high buoyancy. When you stop it, say you're reeling it along, you hit a stick or you hit a rock and you stop it, it floats up really fast. And I've found that if you're having a hard time getting bit, but you know the fish are right there along the rock, especially riprap and that kind of stuff, I will pull and stop and reel and pull and stop and reel, and I'm literally pulling it this way and letting it stop and float up. And this thing floats so fast up, it floats right back into the fish's face, and it can get a heck of a reaction strike. Okay, so the next one is I'm working that timber, working laydowns and things like that. The Jabberjaw is gonna be my go-to. It was last year and it wrecked them. It just comes through wood really, really good. I don't know what it is about that bill, but it comes through wood and actually rips through grass, but I'm not working on grass with this thing this time of the year. And then last but not least is one that I haven't picked up in a number of years. I saw it hanging on my pegboard about 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, why in the world have you not been throwing this thing? And it is my favorite all-time fall crankbait, and that is a speed trap from Lure Jensen. No, it's not my company. But this is an old school crankbait. It's one of those that when you're covering a lot of water and you want to burn a crankbait, which is what I do most of the time when I'm looking for fish this time of the year, this thing stays straight. It's one of the best fast moving crankbaits there is. But that's the Lure Jensen speed trap. And why I haven't been using it, I have no clue. All right, so this next one's not really a crankbait. It is a swim bait, but going with the fact that shad are really small this time of the year, this little baby bull shad is one that when they're schooling you can throw at it. When they're running, when they're along docks and on the outside corner of boat docks and stuff, you can throw that at them. It's just one of those things, another one that you can cover water really good and it stays straight when you reel it fast. Definitely a good one. Now, last, but definitely not least, is one that typically I'll throw in the spring and I'll throw it at schooling fish, but this time of the year, when they get up shallow but they're scattered, you cannot beat a soft jerkbait like a fluke. This is a super fluke or a caffeine shad. Now, when would I throw either one of them? This one is really good when you're working it around stuff fairly slow. Twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, 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 pause. You know, you're just jerking it and letting it do this number and pausing it down. Now, probably 60% of the time, the bass want it super fast. They want a bait that you throw out and you literally are jerking the snot out of it while you're reeling it in and then killing it and then jerking the snot out of it and killing it. And you can't beat a caffeine shad with that. It's got a lot of salt in it, a lot like a Cinco. So it casts a long ways, it's heavier, it sinks faster, it stays down, and you can really work it really, really fast. The downside to it doesn't last very long. 1, 2 fish and it's done. But it is my go-to when I'm working it really fast. And what would I be if it wasn't for a fluke? Where would I be standing? But anyway, I love soft jerk baits. But those are the baits that I'm going to be throwing in September. Some of them are going to roll over to this October video. But you guys take this stuff out. Try a few of these lures this year. Go out, hit the docks, hit the bridge, hit the hard cover, and hit that live grass, and you're gonna have an absolute blast catching fish. Be sure to like this video, hit the subscribe button and the bell if you haven't already. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go out and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.